Welcome to the acclaimed podcast, The Deep Dive, featuring your esteemed hosts, Andy Monitor and Drew Dinzik, powered by BetSperts.
Welcome to The Deep Dive. The NBA Finals are dragging on interminably. I have no comments. I have no thoughts. I played the Nuggets tonight. Best of luck to the Nugs. I hope they cover. I played Nuggets alt as well because I think if they win, it might be a win with margin because I have a lot of respect for that team. And if 10 days of rest and preparation for this game 3 isn't enough to fix some of the things that are wrong with that team, then I don't know what will.
Well, do you
but
remember
we are not
when
here.
the Knicks?
No.
It's just getting hotter. The Knicks lost because it was hot in Miami. Remember?
Oh, that's true.
That was a thing. It's just getting warmer.
That's true.
Although, I mean, at least they're not playing in New York because that looks like fucking the 7th level of hell.
I think.
Sorry, Luke.
WNBA game in New York got canceled, right?
They did. There were several baseball games. Well, I get baseball games, but if it's bad enough where they're canceling indoor things, shit, RIP. And also, sorry to the people who are actually dealing with fires. Like everyone's like, oh man, the smoke sucks. Like somewhere somebody is like on fire. Like there are massive forest fires going on too. So hopefully everybody we like is okay.
Nobody lives up there. It's much scarier when it's in California. Yeah, much bigger deal when it's in California in terms of concern about life. But no, we're not here to talk NBA finals today because there's really nothing to say. It's all been said. And we need something to get this series going, make it a little more interesting. Right now, it's just not doing it for me. But joining us from the scene of all of the smoky pictures today and from the scene, they still hold the NBA draft, I believe, in New York at Radio City Music Hall. If I'm not mistaken. I have to fact check that. It's at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn this year. But yeah, joining us from New York, of course, the great at Vegas Refund, the draft handicapping aficionado, and draft betting market end boss, really. I mean, this guy's tweeting out a thought about the draft and the line moves 40 cents. It's really something to see it in action. But welcome back to talk a little NBA draft, Mr. Vegas Refund. How you doing?
What's going on? Thanks for having me. Is this 5th-year option technically, or
this is well? What were we going to call 5th-year option for NBA?
Ooh, there was some names.
We had a good name.
No, it was
one and done.
Yeah, that was it.
It was one and done. And truthfully, like if you look, here's a fun one, and I'm gonna make you both guess because this is live and it's recorded. And so, which we won't even go with what team because there could be trades and shit. What'll be the first pick number where there's a player who's played more than 1 year of college basketball? So can't be like G League, can't be international, can't be a freshman. Has to be like Hawkins or the Michigan kid. Like, it's crazy. Like, you think about just how the NBA has changed. Obviously, like, oh, Andy, no shit, one and done is a thing now. But it's like, man, nobody who's up top has played a second year of college.
Yeah, I guess the Nick Smith Jr. Is he the first guy? I think he played a couple years at Arkansas. Yeah,
I think he's a freshman.
Oh, is he Nick Smith? Oh man, am I tripping? Yeah, he didn't play. He didn't take that team to the Sweet 16 and lose to Duke? What? No, I guess not. It is crazy and it is rare. Maybe it's just Nick Smith Jr. The fact that it has Jr. next to his name, I always assumed he was an upperclassman.
I love it when
that's not crazy.
I love it when players add senior. It's like, yeah, buddy, congrats on the
He's an upperclassman.
Zion
anyway.
Could add some senior to his name here pretty soon. Jesus, that guy's getting around. I did have some notes. I don't remember what order I put them in, but I think maybe the best one to start with would be because so many people, remember you or know you from talking to us or just follow you for your NFL takes, and you're so deep into the NFL draft. Like talking about your main differences in approach and process between the two, because it feels like the time frame is obviously a lot more condensed, and it's wild how it's just like, hey, the finals are over, draft's next week. Like, it's a weird timing. There's not like a dead area where I wonder if so much in obviously the NFL is so big, but if there wasn't like just this 2-month dead period, would people really be putting out like 40 mock drafts, like that? It feels like it's just a need to fill that void. Like nature abhors a vacuum. So we write, hey, this is my 9th mock draft this week. And it's not that long of a process for the NBA. The markets are quite a bit different.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely a good point where I want to say NBA over-unders came out before like NFL draft over-unders came out. Like it was like DraftKings was like trolling us, right? I do think those come out earlier because the interest on this is like a fraction of the NFL.
Yeah.
Where they do have to have them out probably a lot earlier just to get some sort of liquidity. And we actually have probably more now than we did. There's like equal over-unders out right now relative to the NFL. But I mean, I guess it's nice. Like, I mean, I remember the NHL draft last year. I did 30 minutes of research and made like equally as much, which was like honestly sad because it's like how much.
It's like, I don't have to dedicate my life to this.
I don't know the name. It was kind of the same deal. Somebody had a good tip on just like, hey, this is a bad price, and it was like the guy to go 4th in the NHL draft, and it was like 25-1.
Yeah,
and I remember I was sitting at a local bar with the wife, and she's like, "Oh, you like hockey?" I'm like, just for the first 5 picks, I really want to see who some of these teams are focusing in on as they're starting their rebuilds. And I don't know any of the guys. And when that guy hit, I'm like, shit, we're gonna have a couple more drinks here. This is great. So yeah, same. But I mean, the NBA, there was a lot of good conversation around it last year. But it was the same kind of thing. It was just like the 2 or 3 weeks before it just went from 0 to 100. And I think we're about to hit that right now.
Yeah, like the mock drafts are definitely. There's less of them. Like when a good one comes out, I like genuinely get excited. Where like NFL, it's like hundreds by the hour. But at the same time, there's like 4 guys that you genuinely like they can move the needle, and then it's really tough trying to figure out because there's no like rating sites for NBA draft really, and it's tough to figure out who you want to trust, who you don't want to trust, and it's definitely worth taking a grain of salt. Where like on my sheet, I have like the guys I've picked out, but then I have a separate section for Wasserman, like the core 4, Wasserman, Vicini, Givney, and O'Connor. Yeah. Because we lost one who was Jeremy Wu, who was with, I want to say, Sports Illustrated last year. And he went to ESPN, and now he's like splitting duties with Givney, which is like they better destroy. At the same time, it's sad because we don't have him putting out mocks. He's really not doing anything. But he was a great one as well.
Yeah. Do you think what's different about the NBA draft process if you have to step back and kind of like look at it relative to the way the NFL process works? Because obviously, like, there's only 2 teams left that are still in the playoffs, but until the lottery came out, you didn't know when you were even picking. And it always feels like, and I'm trying not to let certain friends of ours who have wild opinions about the NBA agents tending guys to certain teams, but like it does feel like there's a little bit of teams just like, these guys all suck. We'll just take this guy. Like there's a little bit of casualness, and maybe I could be reading that into just how easily they trade away picks for guys who are not very good, and it's just like, okay, well, they obviously don't think much of these picks if they're willing to do that, where it's like almost the opposite in the NFL. It's like day 1 picks are like solid gold. If you trade a day 1 pick away, right, you better be getting back somebody very good on a very good contract. Otherwise, you're screwed.
Yeah, here's an opinion question. What is a 2nd round pick worth in equivalency to the NFL's draft? And I'm going to answer by making some shit up. I think it's worth like a 9th rounder. Like if you're drafted in the 6th or 7th round.
Back in the day, they did 9 rounds of the NFL draft.
Yeah, how many? Back in the day, they used to do a lot. But it's like, how many of these guys that get drafted in the 2nd round even make teams? Like, a lot of it's like, hey, guess what? You're on a G League, or maybe you have a shot if it's a team really needing your position and you play out of your, like, the 2nd round sucks. It's like, the drop. And I think that's the biggest takeaway for me, who's a little more casual with the NBA side, is like, there's a huge drop off. Like, you're not trading back as the trade back to like acquire all these picks like you see in the NFL. Like that's a shit move. Like if you're trading back, you need a goddamn asset. It has to be a name. It has to be a player, or it can't be trading back very far. You can't go past that cliff. Like there's always a cliff, and it's like, all right, like the best 5 guys are gone, and now we're fucked. Like there's a very high value to those first few picks, and it's just not the same as the NFL.
And then, I mean, like, when does the lottery ends at like what, 13?
A little bit later, I think.
Like the lottery picks is either 13 or 14.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Like that entire aspect of it, which I know it has to do with money, just is like I don't even get it. Like the difference between like they're saying, oh, this guy's going to be a lottery pick because he goes 14 and not 15. But NBA is becoming positionless. It's much more about like best available compared to like the NFL draft. You got team needs, then you got the quarterbacks. There's a lot less information, and I want to say our friend Amico, or it was either Amico. Yeah, I think it was Amico, but he brought up the point, or Dane. It was definitely Dane. He brought up the point where the NFL draft is becoming so mushed at this point where you got so many mocks, you got everyone betting into the NFL draft, like essentially. That the NBA draft with the finals and the playoffs really is probably like it's way more leverageable at this point because you got less eyeballs on everything. You got less people tweeting out. It's not something that is becoming a headline topic in like the Twitter sphere. Like,
well, it's interesting to the positionless thing too, because it's like, and hand up and Dan punked. Well, I said it on a show, so then Dan turned it into a short. But like, I never watched The Last Dance when it came out. I just let like Twitter narrate it for me. Like Twitter just put out half the show on in memes anyway, and I was doing other stuff. So like, I saw it on Netflix and like, oh shit, I should watch this. I like the Bulls. Like that was a fun time in my life. I was young, and it's spoiler alert, it's really good. But like when they draft, when the players get drafted ahead of MJ, and granted, nobody knew he was going to be that good, but it's like, oh no, like don't draft a big guy just because you need a big guy. Like you should just draft a good player. And obviously that's, like you said, it's come to that a little too, where teams, obviously team need is still important, but man, you just got to take some of these studs with the super high end ceilings when you get the spot.
I mean, we still got like the whole French league, they're still playing, like they still have their finals game. And like, I mean, I don't think there's been a scenario where like guys from the French league have been this high up where the guys going in the lottery are going to be playing in their finals. I want to say next week, which the draft is a week later, where Bilal, I'm not even going to try and pronounce his name, like Kalabli or whatever the hell it is.
Sure.
Like he's shooting upwards just based off of his play right now in the final. Or yeah.
Well, he's getting, I'm going to use some terms that I learned watching some TikToks. They're on the same team, right? Victor's on the same team. They're both 92 Metropolitans. He rizzed him up a little. He's been rizzing him, and now he's I believe he is one of the Riz Kings.
I'm going to actually challenge your usage of both of those words. I do not think that I do not co-sign to the application of those words. You're going to have to go back to Urban Dictionary and kind of reread some of the
Riz King.
Yeah, some of the use it in a sentence. But yeah, no, I mean, that no one would know who that guy was if it wasn't for Wemby. But they're seeing like, oh well, we'll take a swing. Most of the success stories in the NBA draft, really, in the last 5 years, they've largely been European players. It's not a shock to say that as we are currently sitting in the finals, that's the most important player is Nikola Jokic, who was very famously drafted during a Taco Bell commercial. I'm not sure if you guys have seen that clip, but that absolutely kills me every time. They cut the commercial and just on the bottom, Denver Nuggets select Nikola Jokic. The big difference maker in this year's draft, though, is pretty obviously a guy we were all expecting to have a potential all-NBA career because his skill set is so unique, and there's really not a lot to say out of like his fair price for going first ought to be minus infinity.
Yeah, the
like
infinity symbol.
It's really not even
or as my kids do, infinity +1.
Infinity +1
breaks my
higher.
brain.
Yeah, that's even higher.
Even higher. You want up me there, but yeah, there is no real price. Like, and obviously, we're not saying put your whole bankroll on it because, like, just in the amount of time that it sits there, even if it were a day, you should be doing something better with it.
Yeah,
but yeah, I mean, it's the handicap for it starts at 2. It's kind of like what we've dealt with some NFL drafts where we really, really are sure of what's happening. And that's been fun though, too, because it was, I mean, like you said, the process isn't as long, but there was a moment where it was just like, all right, this guy's pretty goddamn sure Scoot's going 2. And that wasn't that long ago.
I mean, Scoot's been like the consensus number 2 for a while. And then I want to say it was like during March Madness that it was like Givney or someone tweeted something out about don't be surprised if like Miller will go 2 or like he's ahead of Scoot on a lot of teams' boards, which immediately was the last thing on my mind, but there were number 2 and number 3 odds up, which I'm loving that I like took that initiative to bet. Miller, like I think it was like 9-1 to go 2 and then Scoot 9-1 to go 3. Which was like, I want to say like this, the people that love Scoot love him a lot and like just refuse to believe that Miller's going to go number 2. But as we're getting closer, like even like yesterday he got steamed for number 2 odds even more. It does feel like it's becoming a consensus that Miller's going 2. And now even people are like debating whether Scoot's going to go 3. And if he doesn't, some team could trade up. Like, I feel like that flip-flop of Scoot and Miller is kind of getting ironed out at this point. And it's really who's going 4.
Yeah. If it does end up being Bama number 2, we end up with a weird spot where like, and I think, I don't know, the people I trust and the people I've listened to is like, it would be dumb to trade that number 3 pick. And it goes back to like what I said too. It's like, just, you're not in a spot where you just need to add some young talent. Like all of a sudden you're competing in the West. Like you just don't need to add a bunch of, picks or extra guys or stuff like that. Just go take one of these top players. So I don't know. I want opinions from both of you if you think Portland keeps the pick, but then everyone's like, well, if it goes Miller too, why don't you take one of the twins?
Yeah, well, because they're not very good at basketball, but that's my opinion. I've seen more of them than I've seen a lot of
struggle
college.
with that. I struggle with that, Drew. I don't know. Do you watch much of that? I mean, nobody's sitting down like, I'm going to watch a bunch of G League today.
Well, some people are definitely. There are some Bardos out there who absolutely love it. I have not, but I've seen more of the Thompson, and I've literally been like, what? I really don't get that.
I know, especially when their name first got floated out, I thought it was the blonde girls from
the Asur guy. Like his shot looks broken. I do not think that's easily fixable at all. And if you can't shoot, I don't know exactly why you would take a guy with the top 4 pick, but whatever.
They're genetically the same, but like everyone loves Amen like way more. Like I just can't get like I get it, but just like we got the same guy here, and like I don't get how like Amen is so much far ahead of Asur. Am I pronouncing their names right? But
sure.
Like, and I also don't think Amen should be like such a consensus to go for, which Whitmore does feel like he's starting to inch up on that 4 spot, which a lot of people have opinion about Whitmore and don't think he deserves it, but that feels like the consensus too.
Yeah, if you think that the genetic disparity is breaking your brain with these guys, wait till you see Boozer's kids. Boozer has twin sons. They must be fraternal. They've got to be fraternal. One of them's like 6'11" as like 15-year-old or whatever, and the other guy's like he's like a little bit of he's a point guard. It's like what is happening? How are these two guys like playing specifically different positions and totally different body types?
They should make a movie like that about a set of twins who one is tall and one is much shorter. I would watch that. There's a remake right now. Like Hulu, you have a remake. Get Boozer's kids. Like it's not DeVito, but it's still pretty good. Everything I've read as I've been trying to catch up this week has like been very pro Whitmore. But again, I don't, and we do this as well. And this is the biggest thing we harped on for 11 fucking episodes of 50-year option. It doesn't matter who I like, and sure. I keep coming back to like. I don't know how to rate these guys who play in the G League because I don't know how good the competition is because that matters, like who you're playing against. And I think it comes down to it's Andy, shut up. It doesn't matter. You need to know how teams feel about him. You need to listen for, if you get information coming out of some of these agents or people who know it, or like, AAU guys that we have connections to, like that matters a lot more. But obviously some of the stuff you read, it isn't based on nothing. Like when you see somebody like Whitmore getting steamed up and everybody in the media suddenly loves him, it certainly could be coming from a source like that actually matters. So it's definitely worth paying attention to.
Yeah. Yeah. And this draft is unique because 1.1 is so much more potentially impactful than everybody else in this draft. And the college class, pretty weak outside of Brandon Miller. The G Leaguers all kind of had fanfare and then kind of fizzled playing against like high school competition. So it's to me at least, the lack of secrecy, the lack of cloak and dagger this year, it's not surprising. Like Charlotte's literally like they basically have the first pick. They know, effectively of the rest. And they've been pretty candid, I think, with the draft expresses of the world of, hey, you know what, Brandon Miller, we think he can be a superstar wing. Fits well next to LaMelo Ball. Like, bang, easy call. Like, maybe who cares if his ceiling's not higher than Scoot? We like the fit, and we'll take a chance there. And then, the 3 question that you kind of posed is interesting.
I do want to take a step back because last year, Drew, you were probably, I would say you were the reason myself and a lot of people won so much on Paolo. And I want to say it was the podcast we did before this show, the Marfon's accusations to Chet. Which I can't say that it still could be accurate.
We still are waiting for that.
I mean, you nailed Paolo. Like, it was an all-time call. I don't think Marfon's would throw Wemby off of one. Like, he could literally like tear his ACL today and he'd still go number 1. But do we have any hot takes?
I would almost do hot takes in the other direction with Wemby.
We can wait. I don't even want to touch on Wemby.
We can spend 30 seconds on him. Like,
we can wait till next week or the week after and let you really dig. But no, I don't even want to talk about Wemby. Like, it's like
the shit he does is like crazy, and it doesn't matter who he's playing against. Like, it doesn't matter who is in the way and who else the other 9 guys on the floor. Like, the thing you just did is amazing. And like, I just keep thinking about the missed 3-pointer rebound, like put back dunk. Like, that shit is stupid and people shouldn't be able to do that. So if he's healthy, like the odds of him not reaching some sort of super high ceiling potential feels sort of low. So kudos to the Spurs. Jesus Christ.
Yeah. I guess if you want a hot takey kind of thought, I guess it's mostly just like, really nothing in this entire process is going to derail Brandon Miller around the murder that happened in Tuscaloosa that he was like tangential to. And like, in the moment when that got reported, that felt like a big deal. And now it is sort of like, oh yeah, no, he was just literally in the, wrong place, wrong time, kind of trying to do a guy that he sort of knew a favor. Like, that's sort of the air around it right now.
Right.
There's realistically, if the people who were, truly wronged in that situation they could be waiting in the wings to kind of make their attempt to get a little bit more leverage out of him, either
the whole
some financial
Athens
settlement or
police
something.
Calling Jalen Carter
that kind of
during the combine kind of thing.
There's in the back of my head, I have like, I'm kind of waiting for that story to hit that like it was a pregnant woman or a young mother got killed. I don't remember the details 100%, but her family all of a sudden showing up with like new details and accusations and coming after him for some sort of settlement seems in the cards. And that could shuffle things a little bit, just because, as you kind of laid it out, like there's maybe a pretty narrow margin between all of these guys 2 through whatever. So that's maybe the only thing.
That's fair. It's still 2 weeks. I mean, you got Wemby, then you got Miller, Scoot, and then you got Amen, maybe Osser, the guy out of Houston, Jirachi, whatever the hell his name is. And then you got another group, which from what your opinion, Drew, it sounded like you don't like the Twins, which I think I was listening to the O'Connell podcast or Connor podcast, which he's like so overly positive. It's like insanely annoying. But it was talking about like Whitmore going 4. And if Whitmore goes 4, no, it's Vecini actually. If Whitmore goes 4, he doesn't know when Amon or Oster is going to go based off of like team needs, fits, where like certain teams are going for wings. And I think he put Amon at like 8, which was pushing Oster even further, which right now Amon is like the clear cut consensus 4th pick.
Yeah.
But Whitmore is definitely creeping down. I'm seeing more and more for whatever reason, which is 5 Girassi. I need to look up how to pronounce that. But do you guys see him going 5, or do you think Amon just goes 5? And they just.
I mean, the Pistons are alive to do a lot of different things, I guess. And
I
guess like
go any position they want.
I mean, I think you actually probably have to go back to 3 for a hot second because that situation is still pretty fluid as well, I think.
Just assuming. Yeah, that's fair.
As we stand here today, Dame Lillard is presumably going to finish his career in Portland. But if there were a lot of chances to trade him, to move him, to kind of reset your franchise and try to build from scratch. They have a young nucleus with the kid they drafted last year. He looks the part of a future, very good player at the NBA level. Shaden Sharp needs a lot more reps to get there, but he's on the right track to becoming a good player. So is Anthony Simmons. So you have a little bit of a decent nucleus there. I think your best bet, if you are Portland and you're thinking clearly, is to move Dame for assets and take Scoot Henderson. But they've been resistant to do that for whatever reason. And it doesn't seem to me like you're creating a very positive situation if you keep Dame, you draft Scoot, and you tell Dame, hey, Dame, go train your replacement.
Right.
Hey man, we're not actually going to move this pick to try to help you win anything at all in the NBA here. We are just going to run out the rest of your career, pay you, and oh, by the way, you're training your replacement.
Even though apparently they're like texting each other and like are all buddy.
Yeah. I mean, I think you have to say that. And Dame seems like a very good guy, so I'm not surprised by that at all. That he's like, relatively outwardly kind of trying to reach out to these guys and build a relationship. But at the same time, like, maybe you draft Scoot and you wait for like a little later in the cycle. Sometimes somebody come give you a better offer in season than you're going to get now for Dame. But if I'm sitting in 4 at Houston, I would much rather have Scoot Henderson than either of the Twins. Seems like they've kind of just settled for the Twins. Amen Thompson at least is sort of the better of the two in my mind. So I'm assuming that's who Houston would take. They should be considering figuring out what Portland would want to move up to 3 to get Scoot, because I would rather see him on there. Instead of
taking one of the Twins, couldn't you just trade for Westbrook? Like if you don't want shooting, you don't. There's plenty of that. There's plenty of guys who can't shoot in the league, and I get they're very, very athletic. They're very athletic players who just have some issues shooting, which is crazy. That we'd still are going to take somebody like that in the top 5. Seeing what we've seen with teams, it's like, oh, you signed a bunch of guys who can't shoot and you can't get any spacing and you suck. I wonder why. Yeah. What's going on? Like, why would they do that? I'm pointing up, but it's I'm seeing this too. It's like anything, in my research has been light. I'm just gonna lean on Luke to give me some plays, but seeing a lot of people like Anthony Black quite a bit better than I guess his comp is more Oster than is it Amen or Ammon? I want to say Amen. I don't like trying to pronounce.
I think it's Amon.
I'm gonna say Amon. I see.
It's not Amen. Black. Like it's not 2 syllables. I don't think it's definitely just.
Amon is 2 syllables.
Amon's 2 syllables.
See him moving up, and then there's people. I don't know where do you have your consensus mock on Bilal, the other Frenchman?
He's shot up into the first round this week. Yeah.
People are saying crazy shit. Like people are mocking him in the top 10 now. So and that's the thing. Like in the NFL, what's the catalyst to do this? It's freak ass shit at the combine. Usually, it's crazy. That's another crazy part about this compared to the NFL. There was a combine. It happened a few weeks ago. Do you even remember that? Was it even in the news? Like nobody. A lot of the real stars don't end up going to that. It's not even close to the same thing. It's more of a hey, you're a second rounder. You need to be a first rounder. I don't even know. Like, do you guys follow the combine at all?
I saw that. One kid, Bobby Clintman of Wake Forest, left the combine when, and I don't even know that he is even realistically a round 2 pick. So none of that situation makes sense. If you can find
the only
on him being drafted, give me some no. Yeah.
Yeah. The only thing I saw coming out of that was the Belmont kid from Belmont.
I mean, the problem is they don't go, which I think is getting fixed. Like, I think it's getting fixed next year. Where like the guys that are going in the first, like their agents are advising them not to go to the combine, and then they're manipulating the team workouts, to where they want their guy to go. But I do think next year, like, you're going to be required to go. But like the problem with Bilal is this came out. If his over-under came out last week, it would have been like 25.5. And it came out this week and it's 12.5, which the whole promise thing.
Wow.
The promise thing is like, I hate it because like, is it even real? Like, apparently. But there is a team that you see that gave Bilal a promise, and the rumors are it's
Dallas,
most likely the Thunder, which is 12, which is why it's probably 12.5, or maybe the Raptors at 13. But he might not even make it there, and he still has the finals game to play. So if like that French finals game, he goes off like he did the last game, like who even knows?
That should be Wemby. If he's a good teammate, he should be talking to the coach, who I'm sure he's made a bunch of money. He should be talking to his teammates, and he should be like, we gotta do everything to make Bilal have like a like he has to have like a 60, 15, 8 kind of game. Like we need to just like let him shoot the rock and let him have the Kobe 81 point game. It's just like, all right, just keep shooting, bud. And then it makes all the headlines, and the guy gets to shoot up like 10 more spots in the draft and makes a shitload more money. Because how does that affect Wemby? Like not at all. You're probably still gonna win the game. You're still the first overall pick. Like do your buddy a solid.
I mean, it's insane that a guy is playing a game 2 weeks before the draft to just like up his stock. It's actually great. It's fantastic.
Both of them, it's kind of nuts. Like for Wemby to like be playing basketball at all makes me nervous. But like you said,
basketball at all, like it does matter, but still,
like, I'd have him bubble wrapped.
Yeah. The so if we kind of come full circle here and say, okay, draft kind of starts at 5. I personally, Cam Whitmore to Houston, I've seen and read people with Houston ties that basically have a red line through that. So I would say Cam Whitmore's draft ceiling is 5. Some interest apparently from Detroit, which is why he's kind of consensus mocked in that range. I assume, but I have not heard Detroit people say that they have like already committed to him. So 5 could be a surprise, or Whitmore, which means Whitmore only has, down to go from there. And his current total is 5.5. Although it's juicy to the under. Interesting. So basically somebody's assuming that Whitmore has been promised by Detroit. That's sort of what that means, right?
It might be me because I put out Whitmore under 5.5.
So I was going to say we should get to the stuff that looked better already eventually, because some of that stuff has moved.
So did you see or read that Whitmore has a promise from Detroit?
I won't say it on here. Nothing I'm going to say on here, but yeah, it's just generally
you're saying it without saying it then.
And it's just generally like he's not getting past 5. And like whether you look at the mock drafts, that's a massive group think right now. They're almost all the same, or just like the general, like it feels like he's had all the momentum and he's basically hit his ceiling of momentum that he's not going to go to 3. He's starting to creep into 4. I have no personal opinion on him. All I know is he's out of Villanova. And
he's a big boy. he's got some girth for a small forward.
And you hear that like the Magic at 6, the guys that they like, and then there's like quotes of them assuming that Whitmore won't even be there, which just means he's going to go. They don't see him getting past 5, which his over under was 6.5, but I was in Spain when it was 6.5, unfortunately, which would have been a great number.
Were you taking in some international basketball? Like
I should have.
Sandler and whatever that movie was on Netflix. I like that movie where he's like with Bo Cruz. I don't know his actual name. He has a real name. What's his name, Drew? The NBA player.
Oh,
Kevin Garnett?
No, that's like whatever.
I didn't see whatever movie you're talking about.
It'll come to me. Dan will probably just write it in the chat. Either way, look who joined us. Link Calhoun, who has recently attended one of those dream camps where he got to play with the Houston Rockets and warm up with them. That's why they were so good this year.
Yeah, they the magic of the Rockets wore off. I think he just saw him ship a 6-figure DraftKings pool. So yeah, congrats, Luke. Congrats, Link. Yeah, congrats, Link. The rest of the draft after top 5 is very, very murky to me, and I think interesting enough that the Magic sit at 6, they were tough. They were a tough nut to crack last year. Go ask Woj. And I think realistically, if you look at the makeup of that team and what do they need, it's pretty obviously guard play. It has not worked out especially well with the kid out of Gonzaga. Not to say that he won't ultimately develop into a more suitable role player, but if you can take a swing at a guard, I guess you do, which makes sense why a lot of people are kind of mocking the other Thompson twin there, as he is a guard, even though he cannot shoot. And if the Magic take him, I would be very surprised. Their analytics department has huge input on this, and I just don't see any way that they're giving Thompson a decent rating. A decent enough rating to put him into the mix there. So I would kind of look down the board and see if there are any sort of outlier guards that have high upside, that can shoot well. A guy like Grady Dick out of Kansas stands out.
I think I like which 6 for the Magic is definitely like, that's kind of the landmine that decides how everything else plays out. Because I would say it's like a group think putting Oster there at this point, because I agree with you. I don't think it happens where, I think that's a nice spot for Black, honestly.
Okay.
At 6. And the Pacers at 7 seems like it's one of 2 guys. But I think Black is live there, assuming, which I don't think they would go Walker. Amon maybe falls, but if it's a guard, I think Black's prime there where his over under is 8.5. But I don't think I agree. I don't think it's gonna be Oster.
Okay. So we got some Oster overs.
And then
are those up?
Those have been destroyed, unfortunately. That was the first one that went up. Oster over 5.5 went up during March Madness or something. And it's juiced
one way.
Insanely. And they're just staying at 5.5. So it is starting to come down. I don't know if might have been O'Connor or something, but the head to head, it's Amon versus Oster, and for whatever reason, Amon's been minus 300 and it's starting to come down. But I agree with you. Then the Pacers, it's kind of everyone's assuming it's either going to be Walker or Hendricks.
Okay.
Which they worked out Hendricks today and they work out Walker tomorrow, assuming one of the top 4 guys or 4 or 5 guys doesn't fall. And then you got the Wizards, who they're probably going to go guard. Then it gets really dicey. But figuring out with the Magic
it's the same as anything when we do these drafts. After a certain point, it's it gets dicey from here because who knows, and who knows who's left. But I think some of the success you and other people who we bet with and talked to about this sort of thing have had in the NBA draft is just predicting guys falling and hitting their over-unders, just looking at some, and it's usually a case of you miss on a bunch. You're going to miss on a bunch of these because somebody just takes them. We end up with that weird spot, like you said, where once you get into the teens and even into the 20s there, it feels like teams, the stakes are so much lower where teams take some weird picks But there are some guys that you target every year. It's like, fuck, this guy is falling.
Which is kind of, which is like when like the big boards come into play, which really for NBA is even more important, where there's a couple of guys I'm just waiting for them to go up, and DraftKings is like adding 2 guys a day right now, which is great. Like, it's absolutely the best. And I want to keep this lead buried, but yeah, there are a couple of guys that could fall, but for this, it feels like the top, there's like 7 or 8 guys you just know are going to go in the top 10. And then that's when you got to figure out who might fall, who might jump. Like, how far can Bilal go? Like, can he go 9? Can he even go higher than that? Like, everything you read is like 9 is like the earliest he can go. But which, if he went 9, that would be wild. But then that pushes other guys back.
Yeah. No, that makes sense to me. Who are the 7 guys you would say are high confidence top 10?
Wemby, Miller, Scoot, Amen, Whitmore. I would say Walker. Thompson and Walker, and then Black.
Okay.
Hendricks has been like, he was like that guy that was getting hyped, that was like jumping up boards. I want to say like for the last month or so.
Okay.
Within the last like week plus, it does feel like, for whatever reason, and I can't pinpoint it, he's getting like, his over-under opened up at 9.5. It came down to 8.5. And then I want to say a couple days ago, it went back up to 9.5, which like I wasn't expecting it to go back up to 9.5, which 8.5 was kind of unplayable. But it feels like he's falling to like the 10 or later range.
Okay.
In the mocks, I don't totally buy it because the guy's like, if it's my personal opinion, it is what it is. He's just legit. Like, he offers things that everyone beyond him doesn't. But yeah, like, and then Hendricks, I would say, is like the unofficial lock. And then it gets dicey. Then you got like Dick, Keyonte, Cason Wallace, Hawkins. Those are.
You played a Cason Wallace under recently. Talk me through this. Is this literally just guy went to Kentucky? Kentucky has skill. Kentucky players tend to play better in the NBA than they ever show you at college level for whatever reason. John Calipari, cough, John Calipari. What was the looking, what's the look on Cason Wallace? Because last I saw, Givney had him in like the late teens. And his over-under was sitting right there.
Yeah, there's a split on him, it looks like, through a lot of the people who are good at this sort of thing.
You got under 13.5 at a pretty good price, it looks like.
Yeah, it's more with him, it's like 13.5 I just thought was too high. You see like the teams that he's worked out for. And then everything you kind of just said, where he could go to the top 10. Like, every team has a case. Or Cason just has a lot more outs, where guys like Hendricks could go 6, 7, and that's kind of it. Or maybe not Hendricks. Or like Amon's a good one. Like, if Amon doesn't go 4, like, he might fall.
Yeah.
Or you can make a case for Cason. Like, there's like 4 or 5 he could go starting at, honestly, 6. I don't see, he's not going to go 6, but like, he could go 8, he could go 10, 11, 12, or 13, which...
all of those land you under 13.5. Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. When you were kind of going through news and stuff and you're looking at team visits, like what are some of this like specific info nuggets that really kind of like fire, okay, let's go find a price on this guy because something's up here.
And then Cason, like, he's like on the big board, he's like 10 between like those core 4 guys, which that's the last thing I want to get into. Like, if he's ranked 10 and you got guys above him ranked higher, like, that's important to me. But with the visits, like, you see the videos, you see like he crushed his workout. Like, really the only thing you want to pay attention to, where there was one guy, and I think it was like GG Jackson. It ended up being that he like totally tanked his workout, and he was supposed to go top 15, and now he might not even go in the first round. I guess like, no, news is good news with the workouts, and you kind of just want to see what teams players are working out for. But what's the most important, which was kind of the case for Cason, is when guys are canceling workouts, that is almost like more important.
They have a promise.
Yeah, like it's either a promise or he canceled the workout with the Hawks, which the Hawks picked 15, which that was like the consensus spot for Cason to go.
Yeah.
And then he canceled the workout with the Hawks, and that kind of is the tipping point, at least for me, to realize that if he cancels 15, he's assuming he's going to go before that, which leaves 14. If he doesn't go 14, he's had workouts with the Raptors. He's had workouts with the Wizards. Like, it's just like, which then you have all the outs, then you have the big board, and all those things add up, and then he cancels, and it's an easy one.
Ooh, I like that. Good.
Well,
good
you
breakdown.
say it's easy, but I mean, it's some nice detective work. I like you.
Yeah, and you got into what I was hoping you would get into entirely there, which was you see a guy canceling workouts, and what do you do with that information? Because it means something. And yeah, I tend to agree with you that
it's like Jalen Carter.
Yeah,
like Jalen Carter refused to work out with any team outside the top 10. And guess what? He went exactly 10. Or did he go 9?
He went 9th, yeah.
That was the
worst. Well, he went to the team with the 10th pick.
Right.
They drafted 9th.
Yeah. Which ruined all exact picks.
It really did.
The worst bet.
I don't remember the NFL draft. Did that happen?
I don't want to talk about the NFL draft. I don't think it actually happened.
Well, it was good. It didn't go good with what I talked about, but it went well.
It was fun. Like,
in the
honestly,
end.
that was like the one year where it's like, man, I wish I hadn't bet on this because this is just wild. Like,
I mean,
the entire first hour was just like, what?
I know. I mean, it was chaos. Like, I'm treating like the NFL draft, this one, as somewhat of an outlier, but like the over-unders didn't do well because of the chaos. But like the long shots, like totally, there were a couple that saved me and made it a great time. But I don't want to talk about the draft anymore.
Yeah, Anthony Richardson going. Anthony Richardson going in the top 4. If I hadn't gone bananas on that day of, I would not bridge jump territory, but I would have been very unhappy.
Would have been
camper. Bad. Yeah, very, very unhappy. Anyway, okay. The other kind of interesting stuff you got here, new prop went up today on Keyonte George. You grabbed some over 12.5 pretty aggressively on that, and that has now sailed. What is the story behind Keyonte George having a tough time finding a home?
That was just a bad number, and just a PSA. If I'm just like tweeting out a pick without like the warning, it really is the only reason I'm doing that is because it's like a new prop that just went out. I want to jump on it, but Keyonte is just like a bad number. I'm already on and this is kind of like how I play it out, where I want like equal overs, 2 unders, where if like a guy goes under, it's pushing an over up, where I have Keyonte at 12.5 over, and I have Cason at under 13.5. And Keyonte is one of those guys that feels like he's just falling a little bit, where he's I would have landed honestly at 13.5. I guess I would have been fair, which one spot really is huge, but I'm seeing in the 15 range, like big board wise, he's at 14. So that he just feels like a guy that is losing traction with guys like Bilal jumping up. You got guys like Hawkins who might go earlier, where like the shooters are like somewhat of an outlier, and Keyonte is a shooter. He is going to need work, but there's other guys like mocked or projected to go later that are starting to move up, that are going to push him back. Like Lively, Jalen Hood, Kobe, Leonard Miller, even Bilal. Like those are guys are making moves into like the top 15 right now.
Okay,
that are people that could push Keyonte up, and it just was like that was just a number. Like automatic.
Very cool. I love it. Anyone else worth kind of really pointing out and
I liked it too. We learned our lesson on that, because how many years ago and how many times we have to bring this up. But if you bet a couple unders, you don't have to bet an over. But you got to start really looking hard at not betting any more unders at that point. It's like it can only push so many guys one way, and I feel like you've been really good about that the last couple of years. It's like kind of keeping it halfway balanced, or at least if you're not making the bet in your mind, it's like this guy has to push up if what I believe happens and 2 other guys push down.
Right. And it's like you don't want to have to like predict the top 10 like perfectly in order to win all your bets. At the same time,
it's hard to do.
Yeah. But
are there any teams who we should be specifically targeting to try to get info out of that kind of unlock some important way that the draft unfolds? I'm guessing Orlando again. They have 2 picks in the top 11.
Like Orlando. I mean, the Jazz are interesting. I mean, the Mavs, everyone's saying they're trading. Who knows?
They're sending a dick pic to LA for LeBron.
I mean, I feel like I'm always wondering what they're doing, but because honestly, they have so many picks that they're always in play. But the Thunder at 12 is really, that's one of those spots. Like whether they do have a promise to Bilal or not, and if they don't, like, where are they leaning? I guess you could say. Which Thunder Twitter is like the best. They have the most draft experts out. It's fantastic. But like 12 is one of those spots that I would love to know where they're leaning. But I think they're like the hardest team to figure out. No, the Houston's the hardest team to figure out, but Thunder's not far behind.
Yeah, we're just we're at the same spot as we were in April. If we can figure out Houston, we'd be in a good spot.
Yeah.
The Houston Rockets are going to trade their 20th in order to move up and take both Thompsons, 4th and 5th. They want them both.
It's just less shooters.
No, I'm not being serious. But if they did something stupid, I wouldn't be shocked either. Okay.
Harden.
And I think the other question is like figuring out if Harden's going to Houston. I think is a very important question as well. Which I think we're going to find out before. Like we're going to get
feels soonish, but I mean, multiple people know.
What's your read on that?
And now Paul getting released too. Like I don't know if that really. I don't think that will affect anything with the draft at all. But that's just like he could fill a need real quick, which I doubt he goes to any team like in the lottery at all. He would be nuts too. Yeah, that'd be nuts. He needs to win a ring. I'd love him to go to the Celtics, but
you didn't want to go to San Antonio and ring chase with Wemby.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't impact San Antonio's decision making. I'll tell you
how old is he?
Like what Harden does, which James Harden, my God, like how he has leverage year after year like this is just, it's pure insanity. It's just pure insanity. That's all. He's old and he's just not good anymore, but he's running the league again. Like what's going to happen? He's going to get paid wherever he goes, right? Like, am I just talking on my ass right now?
No.
It's a weird spot that multiple teams be like excited about having him. This is where the NBA loses me sometimes. Like, why are we signing these players all the time? It's NBA players are like NFL coaches. Like, oh man, you're getting older and the game's passing you by and you might suck now. Like, well, another team fired you. We'd be more than happy to take you in right now. Sign on the dotted line. Here's a shitload of money. It's the Tobias meme. Like maybe it works for us, but yeah. Dan says Dan doesn't just say Harden's going to Houston. Dan says eyeball emoji Harden's going to Houston. So,
and I know we're running out of time with that. Like, how would that change things in terms of how they
probably wouldn't. Not with their first pick. Like,
yeah, I think they still take a guard. I mean, they need capable guards so badly that bringing in Harden and drafting Amon is not out of the realm of possibility at all.
Does it make it more likely that they would trade the pick?
Yeah, but again, like
not a lot though. Like,
who really wants the fourth pick? Like, who's dying for that pick? Like, I think that's probably the fourth and fifth picks to me look kind of like Deadpool. You know,
Deadwood.
Yeah. It's like
you kind of got to just take who's there. And it's gonna suck. It's not the guy you like, but
Pistons are one of the favorites to get number one. It's just I mean, thank God
they had tied for the best odds. Yeah. No, I mean, I don't have a special affinity for the San Antonio Spurs, but I think this was probably the best possible outcome. Charlotte would have been a disaster. Detroit would have been a disaster. Houston would have been weird.
It's weird because it's not a huge market, but it's like a good NBA market somehow. Do you get what I'm saying?
Good uniforms. They have just the right amount of history. Yeah.
How about the 90s ones where it's like a splash of paint across?
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God. Can you imagine living in that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But yeah, it's this city that the only franchise in town is an NBA franchise. Like that's cool. Like those fans show up, they show out. It's and it's cool to see Pop get one last bite at the apple with generational.
Yeah, it just
prospect
extended
like
his career by like 5 years.
It's exciting,
otherwise,
yeah.
Otherwise, he would have probably just been like, "All right, I can't do this shit."
Yeah,
forever.
I mean, it would be like if the Pats somehow ended up with the number 1 pick next year and got Caleb Williams. It's just like give Belichick one shot in the arm. He's got a quarterback again. Somebody who can really work with.
Oh God,
don't tease me.
I can hear your pants getting tighter, Luke. Jesus.
So okay, are there any kind of guys that you are keeping an eye on who are currently online, who are currently out of or only on a couple of mocks towards the bottom? The Jet Howards of the world, or the Maxwell Lewises of the world. Like these guys are on just a couple of rando mocks in the teen ranges. Like any of those guys worth keeping an eye on as the draft props start to populate more aggressively?
There's like Nick Smith to me. Like it seems like he's somewhat falling. Like he's kind of just there. He is falling definitely. Like he's been mocked in like the 11 to 13 range, and it does feel like he's just kind of getting forgotten, which might not be good, but it feels like he's fallen. Then Miller, Lively, Jalen Hood definitely is making noise. I think I saw a mock with Jalen Hood in the top 10 yesterday from Gary Parrish, depends what you think about him, but Bilal is definitely the one. And then Whitehead, I think he just had ankle surgery, so he might even be out of the first. Whitehead and Gigi Jackson are like the two guys that have been projected early, maybe lottery, that kind of just are maybe not even going in the first anymore.
Can you help me talk me out of a bet or support it?
Of course.
I am staring at this Kobe Buffkin number and I don't get it. I think he should be in the top 16. It's 16.5 right now. What is your read on that situation? Because I honestly, I don't have him in much different than the Keyonte Georges of the world. Similar grades, similar rating. Anything that you take analytically about Kobe Buffkin, he's gonna hit a lot of the same sort of these shooting guard, point guard guys that are in the 11, 12, 13, 14 range. He's as good or better than a lot of those guys. So realistically, going top 16 does not seem out of the question for Mr. Kobe.
No, that was one like our good friend Julian has us request people to put up, and he was on my short list, and they just put up a really good number with him for me. I was hoping that it would be, because I need like X
17.5 would have been prime.
Yeah, pretty much. Where there's just too many guys coming up the board right now, and guys like Bilal and Jalen Hood, that putting a spot on Kobe where like you can make the argument that he should go. Like if you look at the big boards, like I think like he's ranked from 10 to 14, but like pinpointing a spot, like it's just crowded for me, where if that was a spot or two higher, that would have got sent out right with Keyonte at the same time. And the over's juice, so with like the under at plus money, I would not talk you out of that.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna think about it a little bit more. Who's the other guy you said? Jalen Hood is rising?
Indiana kid?
Oh yeah, Jalen Hood Schifino.
Jalen Hood Schifino. Never heard of him.
Out of Indiana.
Oh, I got it. I see. Yeah. Okay. Same. Oh, okay. Shit. Same position. Same kind of score. Okay.
Yeah. Well, there's a bunch of guys, and maybe that's the thing. You take all those guys, those shooting guards, Hawkins, Smith, Schifino, Kobe, just like look at who you think the best shooters are and bet their unders.
Yeah.
I mean, we got
and
six
teams are smart.
We got 6 point guards in like the top 15, essentially, where there are not a lot of wings. Like they're definitely the most point guards to go within that range by far, and there's just a lot of them.
What do we think about the fact that there's only like 3 international players that are projected in the top in round 1? That feels impossibly low to me.
Man, which when we started, I was like, there's only like 3 or 4 like NCAA players that are going on the top 10. and like I'm just clumping G League and international together at this point.
Okay.
3, we're definitely gonna get 2. Then you got like Rupert, Cisco, and Najee. Like are the 2 that like Najee and Cisco have been projected first round, but it seems like they've fallen out of the first round a little bit. Yeah, I have no opinion. I have no idea.
Given you sending Najee to Portland at 23, that feels like there's a little room for error there, and he can still.
If there was like these are the guys that like if you find out about like if I hear about a promise about a guy in like the late first, like if there's not an over under on it, like I just don't care. But like if Cisco has a promise and that sends it over on international, like that stuff's the actionable. Rupert has a head-to-head with Gigi, I think, on DraftKings, which he's juiced, which if you set that line a month ago, Gigi would have been like minus 200 or beyond. And now Rupert's like minus 160 to go before.
I was going to say a lot more people have Gigi out of the first, it feels like, just from what I've looked at.
Yeah, because he like totally tanked his workouts, I guess. Like just gave up. Like he like walked out of the gym on one for like a team workout.
late May, he was in the high to mid teens. I guess mid to low teens, and now he's low 20s. So
I would try hard during those. There's a lot of money to be made in this league.
Agreed. I guess he wants to go to a better team. He wants to be further down in round 1, obviously. No, I think realistically the
Hawkins is the guy that like I just have no like Hawkins, like the shooters are who was it? Like Murray last year. Like, the shooters just can go so like the sharpshooters like Hawkins or even Hendricks. Like, those are the guys that can go way higher than they're projected. Where Hawkins is like the one guy that I went into this thinking that he could go so early because, of course, I'm just thinking of the national championship and March Madness run that he went on. But then when you like look at everything else, can he defend, etc.? Like he could go in the 20s. He could go like 10, 11, 12. And, of course, his over-under is 14.5. And I'm surprised that the over is juiced for what it's worth.
I think one long-term thing to keep an eye on, the G League Ignite guys are not performing especially well in the league so far. It's going to start spooking people.
That's a really good point. That's a really good point. Like,
which would be like
not only that, but just it feels like G League in general. Like sometimes that transition
that's like the oppo of how international players are doing, right? Like the international guys like continue to make impacts well beyond what they were expected to. But the G League Ignite guys, 2 years ago you had Jalen Green, Jonathan Kuminga, and Jalen Green, Isaiah Todd, these guys. Jalen Green is fine, but he's not, changing the league in any way, shape, or form. And
4 of them, I think.
Yeah, and then last year it was Dyson Daniels, Marjan Beauchamp, and Jaden Hardy. Hadn't really seen much out of those guys, so it's there's going to be, and like I think theoretically, like they're playing against high school competition, which isn't necessarily helping them develop.
It's like AAU.
Yeah. It's like they're getting a redshirt year but stuck in AAU, and they're going to have to continue to kind of, I think, they realistically they're just going to have to continue to innovate how they're developing these guys, because Scoot sliding, at the beginning of the cycle, there were people who were like, man, some team's going to have to choose between Wemby and Scoot.
Right.
No.
Or the narrative, the discourse was like, oh man, there's so many. Like, how many drafts would Scoot just be the number one with a bullet? Like all of them except for the LeBron draft, and like it's crazy that someone's gonna get this guy at 2. Like someone's gonna get him at second pick, and now we're like really
amazing.
He's talking like his career is over.
Yeah, now like he's probably not a starter on a team that was very clearly in the lottery last year. Like he's probably coming off the bench for the Timberwolves or for the Blazers. Sorry.
Wow, hey.
Yeah. Excuse me, the Blazers.
Timberwolves play-in champs 2 years in a row, baby.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Any other stuff we should be kind of peeling the onion back here? Any if there are people listening who have specific info that could send DMs with little nuggets, what kind of stuff are you looking for right now?
So I mean, the Athletic, Vicini, who I didn't know he lived in Australia. Up until now, I was like, this dude is Schrager. Like, did he have a kid? Like, he hasn't done anything. Like, what are you doing, Vicini? And then because he's like one of the best that we have. Like he hadn't put out a mock since like early May. But I forgot the Athletic does like a version of the Beast, which Brugler does for the NFL draft, and Vicini's quote unquote Beast comes out tomorrow, I'm assuming. He submitted it yesterday. I'm guessing they're going to wait, like let the finals get attention today and then release it tomorrow. But that should come out tomorrow, which I'm assuming he's going to have a mock and his updated big board, which is big, which is great. Wasserman is probably like, if I'm ranking the like experts that we respect, it's like Wasserman, Vicini, Givney, Wu, and O'Connor. I would say Wasserman out of Bleacher Report is probably my favorite. Like, then the tie between Vicini and Givney.
Dude, Was was way ahead of the curve on Bill All.
Dude, he's
way ahead of the curve.
Yeah. He's and honestly, Vicini, I think he had Bilal top 10 in his mock a month ago too. He might have.
Ooh,
I mean, it's kind of like the Walters guys, where it's like
there was another guy.
They're like, fuck it, we don't care. We're putting a running back in the top 10, or for a while top 1, and lo and behold, there he goes. So I like a guy who has some conviction early and often about a guy.
Yeah, Wasserman definitely nailed it. And the interesting thing is he did like a live mock where like he went through every pick and he was like explaining it. And the live version of the mock had Bilal at like, I want to say like 13 or something. And then when he posted it online on Bleacher the next day, he flipped it and he put Bilal at like 11, which makes you wonder, like, did he hear something in between? But yeah, Wasserman's definitely like, I'm trying to compare him to someone from NFL. I can't even think about NFL, but Wasserman's the guy. You want to pay attention. He does like the rumor reports. Yeah. And I hate going on Bleacher, but I have to with him.
Just Bleacher Report
actually,
catching us.
VR is a big Bleacher Nation guy, not a Bleacher Report guy.
Yeah. I mean, CBS is the absolute worst now. Like CBS is the mainstream version of Walter Football at this point with ads and like.
Sorry, Will. There's a lot of pop-ups on CBS.
It is so bad. It's. Oh.
I didn't know you were gonna do this. I love this.
And you have
there's a lot of legacy sports sites that it's like, shit, this sucks. Dude, CBS Sports was my homepage. Like when I first got, computers and or when we first got, using the internet on a daily basis. Like when you opened Netscape or what were we using back then? Like CBS Sports was your homepage, man. Every day.
I mean, you probably, it's an OG when like all our dads that played fantasy football are still on CBS. Like that is the only fantasy football.
Because it costs like $150 to have a fantasy football league every year on CBS. I'm in a league that still does it every year. What?
You have to pay to run a league on their site.
It still costs money. Or like ESPN's free, Yahoo's free. It's like everybody's free. Shit. And because it's like, well, but this has our records going all the way back to like whenever. I'm like,
my favorite part of the old CBS site was the scorebug for baseball had like the actual like artwork of a field. And that was innovative at the time. And it was like more pleasant to watch the baseball scorebug on CBS Sports than it was on any other site. Since then, obviously MLB's scorebug is completely taken over.
Yeah, I read Brenson's stuff. Otherwise, that's it. We'll say something nice about Will.
There's no shot he listens to this, but
just in case, I don't want to get back to him. No, friend of the podcast.
I love it. Okay, well, I'm gonna I'm going to ruminate a little more on Kobe before ultimately playing that under, but I think that's a fair play at current price. And I look forward to keeping up with you on everything in the machinations of this NBA draft as we start to accumulate more information, because we got a lot of time to kill between these NBA games.
I mean,
there's only like 6 days between games, more if there's a travel day.
Drew's attention on the draft, it goes from 0 to 60 once Bookmaker puts them up, which I'm like actually been checking Bookmaker to see if they put draft props up to see, because that's when like we get all the scoop. Because they don't. Bets. I was wondering where you were betting what like the Kobe, but once they put them up, that's when you're really dialed in.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything there. Yeah, they have. I'm eagerly waiting. Would love to find some high return type of stuff there, because I mean it's been a quiet cycle, so there's information to be had.
Next 2 weeks, let's pump it up a little higher. So
I love
appreciate you, Luke. Appreciate you coming on, talking a little draft stuff with us, going over your bets.
Are we doing this again?
If you want, we can do whatever we want, dude. I do what I want.
I mean, it is called one and done.
Sorry about that.
You know what? The Monday, let's get back together the Monday before the draft proper, and we'll shock the world again.
Oh yeah, I definitely want to get back together again. Like once we get a little closer and have some more news. So for sure, Luke. But yeah, as Holt says, great primer. Good to get a lot of that stuff rattling through your head, because I've been a little out on it, and I knew this was coming, so I did some research this week.
I mean, I'm fully operational. When
I got back, you're torqued in.
When I got back, it was like 0 to 60. So I got you, Andy.
Just bonus Adderall with lunch is where Luke's at this point. Doubling up. So appreciate it. Thanks you guys for watching. Hit the thumbs up. Leave a review. Rate, subscribe, retweet, like, share, follow, watch, love. Hit the music.
Good to get back in this sweet things. Feels good. Feels good.
You're an outro, Andy. I appreciate it.
I want to get a little